As Ontario readies for thousands of new jobs coming into the province thanks to some major auto investments that are getting billions of dollars in federal support, the feds are facing pressure to share the wealth with other provinces. Premiers of Western provinces are meeting this week, and that's exactly what they're asking for. Danielle Smith is Alberta's Premier. Hi, Premier Smith. Good to see you again. Thanks for making the time.
My pleasure.
Premier, you said after meeting with your counterparts from Western Canada, you'd like to see things like the VW deal replicated in Western provinces. Do you on principle believe government should be subsidizing corporations to the tune of $13 billion taxpayer dollars?
You know, we've got a very successful program. It's our Alberta Petrochemical Incentive Program that offers an incentive for companies that do invest, complete their projects, and then we rebate back some of the cost of capital. We did the same thing when it came down to our oil sands operations. We allowed them to recover their cost of capital on some of those major projects. So those kinds of approaches where you allow a company to keep more of what they would earn, to be able to defray some of the cost, if we can get some matching arrangements with the federal government on that, that's the kind of approach that we would like to take.
But that's different than what's happening, for example, with Volkswagen, right? That's a straight-out subsidy to match what the IRA is doing. So just to be clear, you're not asking the federal government to make those same kind of subsidies?
We're asking them to match the program that we put in place. When we announced our Alberta Petroleum Incentive Program, we had 14 major projects that got announced in our province. The Dow Chemical Net Zero Petrochemical Plant, Air Products Hydrogen Proposal, the Pathways Project for reducing and capturing CO2. So those are the kind of things that we're looking to partner with the federal government on.
Let me dig in a little deeper to the Pathways Project, for example, and capturing CO2. I think there is upwards of somewhere around $8 billion already provided by the federal government over a period of time until 2030 through their own tax credit program. The companies that are going to be the beneficiaries of these kinds of incentives or subsidies are certainly not poor. They're making a lot of money. In fact, in 2022, they made more than double their profits of 2021. The top 5 companies, $38.3 billion. Again, on principle, I guess I'm a bit confused how conservatives on principle are okay with handouts for those types of corporations.
Well, this is existential for our industry. I mean, a few years ago, and even a year ago, the federal government was talking about completely phasing out the oil and natural gas industry, and the media was going along with thinking that that was a foregone conclusion. We've changed the dialogue on that. We've said there's no way oil and natural gas is going to be phased out. We're phasing out emissions, and emissions reductions technologies are expensive. And so if the federal government wants us to work on an accelerated time frame, then we're asking them to partner with us on being able to do it.
But if the industry is facing an existential crisis, why isn't it incumbent on the industry to avoid that? Why are you and I and taxpayers across this country footing the bill for them to survive?
Well, it's the public asking for it, quite frankly. I mean, I think that's the political decision that was made. When you make political decisions that require investments in order to be able to reduce emissions, then we've got to be able to support those kinds of projects. In Ontario, they're supporting a battery plant. We're supportive of that effort. In Atlantic provinces, they're supporting a network system to build a transmission line so that they can rely on more hydropower. All of the provinces have unique needs. Our unique needs in Alberta are carbon capture, utilization and storage, hydrogen. British Columbia's needs are getting credit for exporting LNG to reduce emissions. The North's need is getting a network in place so that we can export critical minerals. Every single province and every territory has their own needs. And if the federal government wants to accelerate the emissions reductions targets, they'll need to partner with us on it.
But it's not just the federal government who is sort of gleaning on to the idea of accelerating those targets. The industry itself, and I'll use the specific example of Alberta, and those who are part of the Pathways Alliance have come out saying, yes, we want to be net zero. In fact, some of them were in advance of different levels of government in doing so. So again, it's like it's a question of principle, I think, that I'm coming at it from. I understand that the government's that this political decision has been made, but companies in the private sector have made a similar decision. Why are we footing the bill for them to do the right thing?
Well, the public has asked for these kinds of targets. The federal government is intent on getting to them, and the industry needs to be able to have more of their own revenues to be able to pay for the projects over time. They're very expensive projects.
But they do. They're making so much money. They're not, like Volkswagen, and I'll use the example in Ontario, just so it doesn't seem like I'm picking on Alberta. Volkswagen is not a poor company. Stellantis is not a poor company, right? These are companies that are making a lot of money right now, and yet still it's now there's an expectation that taxpayers help them do what they have determined is the right thing to do.
Look, we have a couple of programs that we know are very popular, and we require requires the company to invest the money to complete the project, and then we allow them to rebate a portion of the amount that they spent, because we know that it will generate more tax revenues over time. We know that in the case of the projects that I just mentioned, that it has about a 10 to 12 year time frame. And so ultimately, if you've got projects that are going to be 50 or 70 years, allowing them to be able to accelerate their projects so that they can not only meet the emissions targets, but also get up and running and start being profitable again, that's in all of our interests. And when we get profitable companies in Alberta, they pay more in federal tax revenue than anywhere else. So people should be supporting the fact that companies want to make these kind of investments in Alberta. There's lots of places that they can make these investments, and we're pleased that we're seeing interest all across the country in making those investments.
Do you feel that that is a conservative principle, though, that taxpayers can subsidize, that Canadians should subsidize corporations?
Well, I'm not sure if you don't know how our oil sands royalty worked. But what we allowed them to do was to pay a small royalty of 1 to 5% until the cost of their capital were paid off. We've had flow-through shares that have incentivized the investment in our industry in the past. We have the tier program, where we take dollars that are spent on carbon emissions and we put them into a fund so that we can accelerate the amount of innovations that are happening. So those are the kind of projects that we've already supported for many years in Alberta. So this is just a continuation of the same, and asking the federal government to partner with us on it.
Well, the carbon capture, for example, is a little bit different, right? It's a tax credit program at the federal level. Are you asking for something specific in dollar value in addition to what that tax credit is worth? So we started off the interview here talking about $13 billion for Volkswagen, could be up to $16 billion for Stellantis. Is there a figure you have in mind that you'd like to see the federal government come to Alberta with?
Look, the federal government taxes all of us, and then they make decisions, political decisions on where to spend it. I think that the point I was making, and the point I think the premiers were making, is that there has to be some kind of equivalency, that every single province is going to have its own pathway to reducing emissions. And we want to start seeing some of those projects being supported by the federal government across the West as well.
I know you met with Minister Wilkinson very recently. Have you received any assurances from the federal government that they're as interested in making those kinds of investments in Western Canada as they clearly are in Ontario, for example?
I hope so. I mean, I think that they're quite interested in the net zero hydrogen project, the net zero petrochemical project. They've been talking with the Pathways group. And so we just need to work on making sure that we've got consistency in how we're taking the approach, so that there's certainty to the companies as they get started on these projects.
I want to change gears and ask you about a different subject, this one related to opioid-related deaths. New data that came out this week in your province shows that those deaths reach an all-time high in Alberta. In April, 79 people died from drug poisoning. That's the deadliest month on record for the province, and a 45% increase compared to April of 2022. I know that your government, Premier, has taken a recovery-oriented approach to dealing with the issue. Does this data necessitate a rethink of that approach?
We're just about halfway through our plan. We've got 11 recovery communities that we want to build. We only just completed one, and it just started receiving patients in the month of April or May. And so we're at the very, I'm pleased that we recognize the serious problem of the toxic opioid supply 4 years ago, so that we were able to get started on the building. I think we're quite far ahead compared to other provinces in being able to provide the kind of services that people need to be able to completely get off of opioids and recover and get their lives back. And this is another example. The opioid supply in Alberta sounds like it's being cross-threaded with tranquilizers, which is making it very difficult to use naloxone in recovering people. It's dangerous. There's no such thing as a safe supply of fentanyl. We believe that the solution is to get people off of opioids to get their lives back.
What evidence do you have that there's no such thing as safe supply? I understand the statement that there's no such thing as safe supply of fentanyl, but the problem is that these drugs are laced with fentanyl, and therefore they are killing people at a higher rate. Why not throw everything you have at it and combine your recovery-oriented approach with more of a focus on safe supply?
That's not our approach in Alberta. We don't give up on people. We don't believe that enabling people in a serious opioid addiction is the pathway. We believe that recovery is not only possible, it's actually the most common outcome. And we just need to make sure that people have access to treatment. That's why we took off the $40 per day charge on treatment beds. We're building out our recovery facilities. We've got a virtual opioid dependency program. We have the same number of safe consumption sites as we did when the UCP first got elected. So we're taking a balanced approach. What has been missing is the avenues to get into recovery and treatment. And that's what we're building out. We've just gotten started, and we've got 4 more years to go to be able to make the whole plan working and to finish the investment.
How does taking, though, a double-barreled approach, like the one that you described, focused on recovery and on safe supply, mean giving up on people? I was looking at one study, for example, that looked at a safe supply program out of a centre in Toronto. 50% of those people that were coming into the program reported having had an overdose in the 3 months before starting safer supply. Among clients who were in that program for at least 6 months, 15% reported having had an overdose in the past 3 months. That's a pretty dramatic reduction. If you have the evidence before you that safe supply can aid in the ultimate goal you have, which is completely understandable, helping people rehabilitate and get off drugs completely, why not, like I said, throw all you have at it?
Well, we're watching what's happening in British Columbia and what we're observing. You've probably seen the documentary Canada's Dying. I was quoted in it, as was my chief of staff who's leading our effort here. The addicts are going and getting their prescription of hydromorphone, and then they're selling it to get the money to buy fentanyl, which is actually increasing the amount of opioids on the street. So that is what we want to avoid. We don't believe that that is the approach that taxpayers want to see us take. I think taxpayers support our approach of recovery. And we've already indicated that the next step is to go along the same model that they have in Portugal, where they've got dissuasion commissions where people come forward, have an opportunity to get into treatment, and at some point have treatment orders so that if they are harmed themselves or others, that they can be ordered into care. We're in the process of looking at how we would establish that kind of legislative framework. We've got to try something different. Because what we've seen happen over the last number of years is that the opioid deaths are just getting worse and worse, and we're just not going to stand by and let that happen.
What evidence do you have that forcing people into treatment, to kind of infringing on their basic liberties, is going to work and accomplish the goal of reducing the number of deaths?
Well, we've got a number of successful programs. One in Alberta, the Alberta Adolescent Recovery Centre, because with young people you can have a treatment order that forces them into care. And whether it's a month or 6 months or a year, with peer support, many of them are able to make a recovery. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to try that kind of approach, because I think we've had way too many people lose a loved one. And with this particularly toxic combination of drugs that are on the street now, the only pathway is to get people off the addiction and to get them back into normal lives.
Respectfully, though, your party has been in power for a number of years, prior to you even assuming the role of Premier. And the statistic I started off this section of the interview with runs counter to what you're saying, right? More people are dying than ever before in your province. Why doesn't that necessitate you expanding your vision of what else you might entertain?
Well, we've got an integrated drug market with British Columbia and with the United States, and all of us are suffering from the same problem. I don't think that there's a single large city that isn't seeing the kind of problems that we have with the tent cities and the despair, the fentanyl being as rampant as it is, and now this new combination where you've got the tranquilizers and mixed in with fentanyl is a problem we all have to deal with. It. Every single premier at the conference yesterday has said these are very serious problems, and we're all looking to each other to find different ways of approaching it. Alberta has a unique model, and we're halfway into implementing it, and we're hoping to be able to see more success.
If you don't see that success, and I take your point on wanting to get the model fully in place before evaluating that, but if you continue to see the kinds of months on record like the one in April, have you ruled out completely refocusing additional resources on safe supply out of principle?
We're not doing safe supply in Alberta. We're going to continue.
Even if it stops people from dying? Respectfully, Premier, even if it stops people from dying?
Look, there's no evidence that's working in British Columbia, I'm afraid to tell you. In fact, what we're seeing is that we're seeing a larger amount of these deadly drugs on the street, and we've got to take a different approach. Our approach is recovery.
But there is evidence that it works. I don't think it's fair to say there's no evidence that it works. With great respect again, Premier, there is a lot of evidence. I found 4 studies just today in preparing for this interview that did show that it was working. Are you ignoring that evidence because out of principle you don't agree with it?
Well, maybe you should look at what's happened in British Columbia over these last few months as well. They've seen the exact same acceleration in the number of deaths. And it's very sad. I know that they're just as distressed about it as we are. They have a bit of a different approach. And we have a different approach, and we're going to work on continuing to invest in recovery, and we'll maybe have a conversation about it when more of our centres are up and running. But that's the approach that I believe people want us to see. They don't want us to be enabling people to stay in a deadly addiction year in, year out. They want us to support people in helping to get them clean so they can get their lives back.
Premier, I'll leave it there. I appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Vassy.